Okay, I talked a little bit separately about the biochemistry, in particular the alkaloids in daffodils. But now I want to talk about flower anatomy and botany a little bit. Daffodils are probably my favorite flower, certainly one of them, for showing people the parts of a flower, the anatomy, particularly the reproductive parts of a flower. And that's the whole purpose of a flower. Because you can see so much with the naked eye. Wonderful thing to share with kids, by the way, but our inner child as well, no matter what our age. So let's take a look at this daffodil. First of all, daffodils are monocots, so they have flower parts that come in threes and multiples of three. And we are going to dissect this beautiful flower, but you can see these are the tepals, these are petals and sepals fused. Basically serving both functions. And there's 1, 2, 3, daffodil 4, 5, and 6, right? And then we have this unique or close to unique feature of daffodils, kind of what defines how they look, of this trumpet or crown or corona in the middle, right, of these fused petals. So we're going to take that apart to get to the inside. Now, remember that flowers are reproductive organs. That's the whole purpose that they serve for a plant, for angiosperms at least, right? And that a flower doesn't need to have color. It doesn't need to have nectar, doesn't need to have aroma. All those things are for the purpose of attracting pollinators. Now, let's get down in here. Here we go. And now we're getting to the business parts of the flower. So you see this bulge at the bottom, that's the ovary, right? That's where the egg chambers are and the egg cells are contained, because this is a bisexual flower, meaning it produces both eggs and pollen, which in turn produce sperm. This is also insect pollinated. So basically, let's say a bee, for instance, will land in the flower looking for nectar, some pollen as well, get covered with that pollen, go on to the next plant. And some of that pollen will land on the stigma here. That's the top of the pistil. So this part in the middle, and I'm going to take this apart so we can see a little bit better in a second here. The pollen will land on this stigma. That the etymological link there is a stigma is something that sticks to you. So that's where the pollen sticks. And pollen are spores that have the capacity to produce sperm cells. So they will produce sperm cells that then travel down the pollen tube, what's called the style, which we'll look at in a second, all the way down to that ovary to fertilize eggs. Now, we also have pollen-producing parts. So let's take a look at that. Brought some tools with me. So, if we pull one of these off here, we can see that is the pollen-producing part, sometimes called the male part, but I tend to shy away from that language now, or try to. This is the stamen, right? And stamens produce pollen. And all of the pollen is produced right there, and in this case, insect pollinated. So again, we'll get covered. We'll cover a pollinator like a bee to cross pollinate to another plant, right? So we have these stamens around the outside, and we're going to remove those now. Actually, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to take my razor blade, and I'm going to cut this right in half. And we're going to see it much better that way. So here we go. Here's a cross section. And what we can see here is we have the stamens around the outside, right? There's another one, like the one I pulled off before. And if you count those, there are 6 of them. Again, multiples of 3. And now we're left, I've removed all the stamens, with the pistil, the egg-producing part of the flower, because again, this is a bisexual flower. Not all flowers are, but the ones that are animal pollinated tend to be. Stigma, followed by style. The etymological link there is it's like the style, the stylus you use for your tablet, for instance. And here we have the ovary, and we see a cross-section of it because I've cut it in half, right? And we see the little egg chambers. I'm going to try to, it's a little further away, but I think in better focus when I hold it a little further away there. And you can see actually this is a wonderful thing about daffodils, you can see the little ovules, right? These little egg chambers are visible to the naked eye inside that ovary. So you get a really good sense of flower anatomy, bisexual flower anatomy. And so, of course, if those eggs are fertilized, this will then transform into a capsule, into fruit. The ovary wall will swell up and harden and protect the developing embryos inside, which we call seeds.